Hello, social media. I am Dr. Brett Spradlin. We are at Divine Design Natural Health, and we have a barnstorm of a crowd, a firestorm of a crowd going on right here. I'm just trying to hold it all back. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They're wild, out of control, crazy people in here. Especially Josie right here. She was the loudest out of all of them. She's so loud. All right, we have a ton of stuff to get through. It's already 6:20, so I'm sorry we're starting a little bit late. We have a ton of stuff to get through. I don't think we're going to get through all of it. I'm going to try to blaze through it by 7:15. I'm going to try not to preach too much because I can preach about this topic. So tonight, big topic for Facebook, social media. Today's Earth Day, okay? And we're going to talk about, and I thought it would be appropriate to talk about ancient medicine because we ran a couple of classes the last two batches of events that we did. It was called If It's True, It's Not New, and If It's New, It's Not True. It's something I heard a pastor say a long time ago, just really stuck in my head. If it's true, it's not new, and if it's new, it's not true. And the last time that we talked about Keep America Beautiful, we talked about recycling, we talked about that was part of it. Then we talked about women's health, cosmetics, beauty, all the things that are thrown out there that cause a whole lot of problems. This time we're going to talk about, I thought it would be only appropriate because this topic has come up frequently because we're redoing our website, redoing all of our keywords, and I've been surveying patients and asking them, if you were to Google us, we don't advertise, we don't have a sign, that will change at some point. It's all word of mouth, friend and family, testimonial, word of mouth only is how we've grown this practice for over 4 years now. We do not advertise, and we're packed, we're slammed. We want to get more packed than slammed though. So we've been looking at the definitions of all these words. People use these words interchangeably, correct me if I'm wrong. Holistic, homeopathic, naturopathic, more natural, chiropractic. There's a lot of words that are used interchangeably, so I thought it would help to define those words, but I thought it would also help to walk through and really challenge you on what is your own health philosophy. You have to understand this. If you don't have a target, you'll hit it every time. You get that? If you don't have a focus, if you don't have a target that you're aiming at, you will miss every time. So if you don't have some clearly defined goals or some clearly defined reasons for why you believe what you believe, first of all, you got to know what you believe. You got to know why you believe it. I'm getting a little Acts chapter 17 right there. But you got to know what you believe, know why you believe it, right? And then figure out what you're going to do about it. Because it does you no good just to believe something if you're not going to do something about it. Tonight I'm going to challenge you. My purpose is this. It's to bring some information to the forefront that you may or may not know. It is not to offend you, it's not to downgrade you or denigrate you or to make you, to talk down to you or say, oh, this is right over here or this is wrong over here. You got to decide that for yourself. I'm just here to point you in the right direction. Just don't shoot the messenger, okay? In my line of work, it is very easy to do that because you're confronting a whole list of things that people have thought were true for decades, and all of a sudden you're coming against some things that they held dear for a long time and that some very high up people may have told them that are completely false. Completely false. From the stuff they hear in the media to the stuff they've heard at the doctor's office to the stuff that their mom and dad taught them, maybe a preacher, maybe a teacher. Sometimes there are things that might rub you the wrong way, but I promise you there's answers to all of your questions. Tonight may be challenging. Facebook, all you out there, tonight may be challenging. But it is not my intention to step on anybody's toes. The nature of the subject matter will do that itself, okay? I'm just preaching the truth. However you all take it is really dependent on where you are and where you want to go. So that being said, raising your awareness, giving you some nuggets to take home. I'm going to discuss, I may be like the only person who ever brings you some of this information. And as we already discussed, there are not too many places out there that are doing free public education workshops for patients, free complimentary workshops with information like this. So just understand how important it is that you tell people about this. Understand how important it is. How many other doctor's offices that you've ever gone to have a wall of referrals or testimonials? Somebody raise a hand and tell me. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying we've worked hard to get those testimonials. We've worked hard to gather these right here. And we're going to hand these out to you. These are just, we're not going to hand them out right now, but just later on when we get to that specific part of the program. We've got probably 15, maybe 10 or 15 pages, 2 pages of testimonials that are just about patient care, general things, services that we offer here, not condition specific, just the chiropractic, the laser, the detox. So I just said how it's very important that I present this information to you, but how you take it is dependent upon you. Every decision, everything you do is either going to take you closer to pleasure or farther away from pain. Everything you buy, every advertisement, everything you do, everything that they present to you in marketing or advertising is meant for you to avoid pain or to pursue pleasure. What if you had a place where you could do both? What if you could march away from the pain and approach having a more pleasurable life? That's what we do here. That's why we have those testimonials. Keep that in mind. Now, I gotta get Hannah here in a minute. I will read you some testimonials in a moment. And first and foremost, the referral folder system out here in the lobby, we can show you that. We'll stick around for a tour later on and we'll show you. If any of you are interested in doing, well, of course, you're gonna be interested in what we're doing after I tell you all this. You're gonna wanna know what we do. The Vitamix, we already talked about that. All right, moving on to the big subject matter. I wanna blast through this because this is a lot of stuff right here. First of all, know this. What we do here, we are not bashing any particular discipline. We are not throwing anybody under the bus. There's just logic and science and proof and fact that goes along with certain avenues. And so tonight, hopefully, the one nugget that I want you to walk away with is this. Hopefully, by the time you walk out of here, and I hope you all got some pens, because this is going to be, you'll want to write some stuff down. Or phones. I won't be offended if you're throwing stuff in a phone. You will probably want to come up with your own. Tonight, you could come up with, if you have never had it, and most people go through life without it, what's your own personal philosophy on health? Everybody's got an investment philosophy on their money. Everybody's got a family philosophy, how many kids they want, where they want their kids to go to college. Okay? Does anybody have a health philosophy? Does anybody have a philosophy on what kind of health care do I want? How am I going to live my life so as to avoid some of those problems that my friends or family or aunts or uncles or coworkers have gone through? That is the nugget that I want you to take away from tonight. Because your philosophy will determine your direction and your outcome in health, just the way it does with your investments, just the way it does with your devotionals, just the same way it does with where you go to school, what kind of job you get, how well you do at your job. I may suggest things you disagree with, but like I said, doctor means teacher. Get over it. So this presentation is geared toward you determining three things, okay? 1, what do you believe? 2, why do you believe it? And 3, what are you going to do with it now that you know it? Okay? So, and we'll recover that. So like for instance, I'll give you my philosophy, some nuggets of my philosophy, and then before we get too deep into this, let me go one thing. Let me read you some examples of other people's philosophies. Think about this. Think about these philosophies, okay? And then I'll read you some of mine. These are actual testimonials. These are what we would call case studies. We'll cover this later on. Oh, there's the man. Come on in, you guys. Mark, can we scoot this forward? Yeah, there we go. That way I can spit on the whole crowd. I made some room for you. Come on in. So, hey. I'll just read you some quick testimonials so you can get a feel on where we're going here, okay? If I would have known this place existed, I would have come 5 years ago. Before I moved here for college, I saw numerous natural doctors in my hometown. I saw improvements, but it was never like the improvement I saw here. When my mom came to visit, she said, this is like all the other places, but on steroids. Oh, I've never read this one. I've never read this one. Did you read this one?
Yeah.
Lindsay's mom? Great. This is like all the other places, but on steroids. Natural steroids is what she said. Other places I went get stumped after a few things didn't work. I wanted to find a place for natural health, but had no idea this place existed. I wish I would have come my freshman year of college instead of the year after I graduated. I'm just thankful I found a place who doesn't give up until my skin's completely clear. She had some heavy-duty skin issues that are going away. And no, we're not dermatologists. Thanks to these protein shakes, my husband and I are getting so many healthy veggies that we would never eat before. We can't even taste the veggies that we pack into these shakes. That's how good this protein mix is. I'm talking beets, Brussels sprouts, kale. They're delicious. I still wouldn't be able to eat these veggies without putting them into the shake. So see, we change people's diets. I tell people, you don't have to change everything, just give me your breakfast. Right, Chris?
Right.
Give me your breakfast. When I just change your breakfast, I just change 33% of your diet, which will change 33% of your life. If you're willing to do that, we can help you. I've been seeing Dr. Brett and his team for 6 months and have great success with improvements. I recently was on vacation, didn't come in for 5 weeks. I ate what I shouldn't be eating, was not taking my supplements as recommended. Pain and inflammation came back in. I saw why this protocol works. It directly affected my health and well-being while I was on vacation. Thank you for your team carrying a better way to live and breathe. Love you guys. So see what we were talking about? 5 weeks she was gone, and she kind of fell off the program a little bit, but overall she maintained. But when I go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks, and I come back and everybody's getting better, it's not about me. See? It's about them. I put the weight on the patient instead of carrying it all on me. And guess what? You guys can carry it individually much more than I can. I had severe IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I'm not a gastroenterologist. Painful flare-ups that left me afraid to travel. That does not make your life happy when you're afraid to get on a plane because you might have explosive diarrhea. How many of you know that? I was afraid to try new restaurants, travel, and be far away from the bathroom. I was in pain and a slave to anxiety because your gut, you ever hear somebody say, I got a gut feeling? So that anxiety thing is tied directly to your gut. You know that? All of the neurotransmitters that are made in your brain are also made right here. Funny, huh? So I just went on a weekend trip out of state and ate foods that I knew were safe for me. My digestion has been near flawless, and I've actually enjoyed going to the restroom. That's like one of the best things that somebody's ever said. I actually enjoyed pooping, she said. I was initially apprehensive at saunas because I didn't like being hot midday. We have an infrared sauna here. I don't know if I explained that. That is in the testimonials that we'll talk about later. How many of you do not know what an infrared sauna does? Anybody? No? Infrared sauna, very good treatment. Anything skin, digestive, bowels, any type of immune problems, anything. It's a dry heat. It's Phoenix, Arizona, not Miami, Florida. So it's very different than steam saunas. Okay. However, the feeling of mental clarity that comes from this is amazing. I leave feeling awake and refreshed, which is worth the sweating. Last one. I've had tumors as long as I can remember. The last few years they've gotten worse, and it was usual for me to go to the surgeon to cut them open and drain them. I got to where I would go 3 or 4 times a year to the surgeon for the really bad ones to be cut and drained. I've been at Divine Design for 7 months and haven't had to go to the surgeon one time since I started.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
3 to 4 times a year to get tumors cut out. You think that changes her health philosophy? Big time. All right, so now that's a little health philosophy. Those are what we refer to as testimonials. Some people would refer to those as case studies. I'll explain that later on. Now, I'll explain to you my philosophy. My philosophy. Here's part of, remember, there's 3 parts. And we're going to blast through this, okay? 3 parts. There's, what do you believe? And this goes with anything. Investments, God, whatever. It goes with anything. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? What are you going to do about it? Okay, so here's what I believe. Everything, and you can copy these. You should, actually, because I've done this for a long time, and it makes a lot of sense. If you don't copy this, you'd be silly. Here's part of what I believe. This is just part of it. Everything important to me is dependent upon my health. Think about that. You can't build wealth if you don't have health. You cannot have a family reunion and go on vacation if you don't have health. You can get a cruise to the Caribbean, but if you ain't healthy, you ain't going on it. Right? Everything important to me is dependent upon my health. So why don't people take better care of themselves? I don't know. Number 2, the body was created to heal. You have a paper cut, it heals. A bullet wound, it heals. You get a blister, it heals. So the body was created for health. This is my belief, the second one, number 2. Body was created for health, not sickness. Does that make sense? That's way out there to some people, right? Number 3, the order of treatment should always be less invasive to more. In other words, it should go conventional, conservative, conservative. Maybe if you have to, a drug, and then maybe if you absolutely have to, maybe a surgery. In that order. What is traditional healthcare in this country?
Drugs.
Exactly opposite.
And then surgery.
Exactly opposite. Or starts in the middle, starts with the poisonous, goes to the most invasive, and then maybe after that, you know when people walk in here? When did most people walk in here? Last resort. Say it louder.
After they've tried everything else.
At last resort. Who said last resort? Is that you? Oh yeah, last resort. What'd you say, Ben?
Oh,
Yeah,
something.
okay. Last resort, right? They always go conservative last, after they've done the drugs and after they've had the hysterectomies, right? Number 4, there's no drug that ever cured a disease. How many of you know that? There is no drug that cures a disease. Name one. Anybody? Can you name one? We've lived in America for decades. We've seen millions of commercials. We have hundreds of thousands of choices for drugs, yet there's no drug that ever cured a disease. But what about penicillin? That's a good choice. That's good. Who said that? It's a good answer. Best one I've ever heard. I've had this talk with medical doctors, nurses, pharmacists. Penicillin, that's a good answer. That's probably the best answer I would come up with, probably. But penicillin does not cure the disease, it kills the bad guys. And then your body cures the disease. Don't give the drug credit for what the body did, okay? Number 5, there's no drug without side effects. Once you determine there's no drug that ever cured a disease, there's no drug without side effects. Why? What are all the drugs? Chemicals that do or do not belong in the human body. Do not belong in the human body, particularly at the dosages with which they are prescribed. Next, energy is neither too much, too little. Energy is either too much, too little, or stagnant. In your body, at the dam, in the river, in your electrical outlet. Energy is either too much, too little, or stagnant. Here's more of my health philosophy beliefs. Here's a big one. What I eat determines how I feel. That's huge. If you don't know that, we got work to do. And here's my last one of just the ones I wanted to throw out there so that I don't turn this into a 3-hour class. It is my duty to be healthy. My duty to society, to family, to friends. Okay, so number 2, why do I believe it? So we covered what do I believe. Then, okay, why do you believe it? Okay, well, there's divine creation versus atheistic evolution. Let's just talk about that one for a minute. Okay? People are going to tell me that everything exploded from nothing and created everything you see. That's the biggest scientific fallacy you've ever listened to, you've ever believed. It's horrible. So divine creation makes so much more sense. It narrows everything down. Remember that body that gets a paper cut and it heals? Evolution can't explain that. Never will. Evolution can't explain rocks. We can. Creation science can explain all of it. Divine creation versus atheistic evolution. Not only is it scientifically valid, with math and science and history and archaeology, we could go on and on and on, just about that point right there, but it makes sense logically in an anatomy and physiology framework too, because if you were created, then understanding how the body was created is the only way to understand how to fix the body. And if you were pulled out of the dirt, then there were only 2 other things that were ever pulled out of the dirt, according to the good book that we're going to talk about later on in the summer, plants and animals. There are only 2 other things, plants and animals. So if you understand how the body was created, you can understand how to fix it. But if you understand that the body is a random chance chemical reaction 4.6 billion years ago spinning 1,000 miles around a dirt ball, then you don't have a problem with punching a bunch more chemicals into that bag of chemicals. That's medicine. That's based on evolution and atheism. You need to understand that. So why do you believe it? Divine creation versus atheistic evolution. Why do I believe it? Observation and training. I worked in a hospital for 3 years before I ever did those. Observation, nobody got better. Training, this makes sense. I know doctors, dentists, pharmacists. Next one, science and faith are inseparable. Some people say science and faith are completely separate things. Even the scientist has to have faith in his science, right? They're the same thing. And if you have faith without science, you don't have a whole lot of anything. But if you have science without faith, you just... Everybody's got faith in something. You got to have faith to believe in those 4.6 billion years, don't you? Yeah. Logic and statistics regarding current healthcare. Why do I believe what I'm saying to you? Because if you look at the logic and the statistics of current healthcare, stats don't lie, folks. Anecdotal evidence in people's lives, even if the stats are bought by a big company and put on the media for you to consume, the anecdotal evidence in the lives of your family members is proof enough, is it not? When you go to a family reunion, do you see sick people or healthy people? Don't be ashamed. Do you see sick people or healthy people?
Definitely
Definitely what?
sick.
Sick. When you go to a family reunion, do you see sick people or healthy people, Chris?
Healthy when they get there, sick when they leave.
That was well said. That was well said. Yeah, that's Carolyn. When you go to a family reunion, you see sick people or healthy people? Okay, when you go to the grocery store, do you see sick people or healthy people?
A lot of sick people.
Okay, when you go to schools, do you see sick people or healthy people? Josie, do you see sick people or healthy people?
Well, I don't go to school.
I know that. Do you see sick people or healthy people? Do you see sick people or healthy people at your school? Sick people. Anecdotal evidence is just as true, is it not? Okay. Education, so why I believe it? Another reason, education before medication. It makes more sense. We just talked about the conservative care, only drug if you have to, and then surgery if you absolutely have to. And we'll get more into that. Third part, what are you going to do about it? Here's what I'm going to do about it. Trust intuition and wisdom of the body over toxic pharmaceuticals. I made that a condition of my employment, if you will, and a condition of my existence long ago. I'm going to live my life according to divine protection rather than an insurance premium. Blue Cross Blue Shield is not my God. Aetna, Cigna, Humana are not my God. Well, what happens if you're in an accident? God's got it. Don't worry about it. I do have accident insurance. Well, what happens if you get in a car accident? That's why you have car insurance. Why are you worried about having 12 different kinds of insurance? What are you worried about? What are you so worried about? Come on. Next, be proactive with my health and fitness. That means I'm not going to just sit around and be lazy. I'm going to invest in my health care. Let food be my medicine. You guys have heard that from someplace before. And last, I'll spend money on health rather than betting against myself with premiums. Okay, so those are just some of my my tenets, my premises of my health philosophy. So you have to have a reference point to guide your decisions. If you have that reference point to guide your decisions, it can literally save your life. But if you do not have a reference point to guide your decisions in a time of crisis or challenge, when that crisis or challenge hits you, what are you going to do? You're going to take the path of least resistance. You're going to take the path of whatever somebody tells you. What happens if you come to this doctor, and he gives you contradictory information, and this doctor, you go get a second opinion, and now you've got two conflicting things? Who divides? You pull a King Solomon and cut him in half? What do? Who divides that? How do you decide which way you're going to go? It's based on your health philosophy, is it not? Or you're just listening to opinions. And I'm not a big opinion guy. I'm more of a fact, science, logic, truth type guy. Facts can, opinions can be bought and sold, and opinions can change over time, right? So if you don't have that solid reference point, it's going to, if you have a solid reference point, it's going to increase your chances of success and health. And what most people have, they don't necessarily need, people put a lot of understanding in health insurance, but what they really need is health assurance. And how do you have health assurance? By having a game plan. By doing some of those things like, let's understand this nutrition thing first. Let's understand that. Let's understand why we go to family reunions and we go to schools and we go to potlucks and we go to church things and bake sales and we're sending missionaries to India by selling sugar. Let's figure that one out. Okay? Let's first figure this one out. Does that make sense? If you have a clearly defined philosophy based on rational decisions, you can answer this question. What's more important than your health? Anybody? Raise your hand. Can anyone in this 20 people in this room, can anybody think of anything that's more important than your health? Chris?
I think this is an exception to what we would be talking about, but following God's direction.
Oh,
for
yeah,
your
yeah,
life,
yeah. Well, right.
The apostles laid down their lives.
Right, absolutely.
But other than that, I can think of nothing.
Right, but they couldn't lay down their lives if they hadn't lived to that point healthy to get there. Right, because your temple, right? You got to take care of it. So yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with you there. Absolutely. Well thought. Well said. And right on top of that last answer, you went from one extreme to the other. I love that. Super serious and then comic. Love it. What's more important than your health? I mean, you can't think of anything. What can you? So in light of recent news and all these things that we're talking about now, it's more important than ever to understand what your health philosophy is. How many of you know? Like, what was the place, Western Sizzlin, that had the hepatitis outbreak because one person, and then it swept the news, and then the health department was just tackled by people trying to get the vaccine like it was World War Z or something. People thought they were going to turn into zombies. And all kinds of people telling me about it. And I said, Western Sizzlin, what's that? What would I do? I'd stay out of Western Sizzlin. Before I could get the vaccine. Anyway. All the stuff and we won't talk about it because we're being watched and spied on, but the measles outbreaks and all the things that are in the media to influence your decisions and to get inside your pocket and to get inside your head with that fear, measles outbreaks. I mean, really, it's a week-long childhood rash. Am I wrong? Do people dying of measles? Chickenpox, it's a week-long childhood thing, and we're turning it into a lifelong epidemic of neurological dysfunction and not understanding why your kid's 18 years old now, wearing a helmet and diapers. And you just wanted to get him past the chickenpox? Think about this. That goes back to your health philosophy, doesn't it? What are you going to believe? What are you going to believe? Are you just going to believe what the media tells you? Or are you going to believe logic and fact and science and maybe the good books? What's the good book say about mixing bloods? Just think about it. The epidemics that are out there, the West Nile, what are the other big ones? Swine flu, bird flu, cat
Zika.
flu, dog flu, huh?
Zika.
Zika, that's my favorite. All that crap that is just being foisted on you, all of that. Are you getting blinded, darling?
I am.
Hannah, can you move these things for, we're getting people sizzling out here with the sun. I'm sorry. Or wait, which one is it? Is that it? Can you move that? I don't want to.
I don't know which one it is.
I don't either.
It's
Can you
getting
figure that
rid-
out? Just come over this way. So in light of the recent news, it's more than ever to understand like what's going on. I just see I'm getting blinded. So.
Yeah, because I don't think it's the
Here.
height of the board.
Is it the height?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the height of the board. Here, we can move this.
So you got to understand the political and financial interests of the media you consume. You must understand where this is coming from. Why is it all the same on ABC, NBC, Fox, MSN, CNN? They're reading the same scripts. They're reading the same teleprompters. Don't think that it's all different. Come on now. Come on, you're all adults, right? So just to lay it all out, we've got all of these health premises that we're talking about. Medical doctors, osteopaths, chiropractors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, dentists, veterinarians, psychotherapists. The list goes on and on. They all operate from a list of premises or a basic list of assumptions as to what type of practice they're going to practice. This will determine the exams they give you. This will determine the questions they ask. This will determine the treatments that they give to you, based upon the health philosophy that your doctors have. Recently, somebody was in the room, and she'd previously gone to dozens and dozens of doctors. Well, I shouldn't say dozens and dozens. Probably, I think she said 6 or 7. But I've certainly had patients that went to a dozen doctors. And I was just taking notes, asking her how the day was, and she said, "It's so nice." She said it kind of exasperatedly, and it just hit me like a brick in the face. It was so great to hear. She said, "Oh, you have no idea how nice it is to only have to go to one doctor." I just stopped, man. It shattered me. I just turned and said, "I've never heard anybody say that quite like that." But here, let me turn this camera on real quick and just say it again. That's great. So all of these doctors that you all visit and that we all know about, they have their own health philosophies regarding health, and that's what helps them make decisions and give recommendations. So you're subjected to their opinions. You're also subjected to ads, TVs, commercials, magazines, blogs, websites, other sources. How many people come in here and say, "Well, Medline said this," or WebMD said this? And I tell them, "Well, we've got a rule. You can't Google your disease." Knock that off. Stop that. Did I tell you that? No. So, did I? Yeah. Stop Googling your disease. Let me do that. Dr. Google will lead you right into the waiting arms of people who are the reason why you're coming here. So stop it. They're never gonna lead you here. Now, what do you align with? Which philosophy of those? Psychotherapists? Do you align with the philosophy of psychotherapists? Do you align with the philosophy of acupuncturists? What is your philosophy? We're going to discuss what all those philosophies are, which you've never heard before, probably. Very few people in this room, and once you understand this, you'll be above the 95th percentile. Very few people in this room know the difference between medical doctors, DOs, DCs, acupuncturists, naturopathic doctors. Does anybody in here, could anybody give that? Could anybody say that they understand all of that? We'll go through their health philosophies here in a little bit. Determining your philosophy can be transformative for you. This is not, having a deliberate future is based on not just going off of what your mom or dad said. Because I don't know how many times I've heard people come in here and say, I'm here because I don't want to go where my mom and dad went. Or I'm here because I had a sister, same age, boom, 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 and it didn't work out well for her. Thank you. Okay, so which way do you choose? Here's one thing. One of the biggest contradictions out there is calling American medicine healthcare. This is not, like I said, yeah, I have people, friends, family in medical field, nurses, doctors, whole nine yards. This is not throwing anybody under the bus. I am just telling you facts. One of the biggest things is calling medicine healthcare. It is not healthcare. It's sick care, disease management. Just call it what it is. Here's a health tank, okay? Here would be, let's just call this full, and let's just call this empty, right? Health tank. I want you to understand this. So like, as it goes this way, it gets empty. When we get to about the 75 or 80% mark here, we will call this symptoms. We'll call this the threshold. And we'll call this we'll call this health right here, okay? So this is pretty good. Not really, but you're not feeling any symptoms, okay? I made this diagram a while ago for people and it really hit home and I thought, man, I gotta use this more often. In between here and here, you feel no symptoms. Your body is constantly creating endorphins and enkephalins and all these other things called like mediators in your blood and in your body to kind of decrease pain, decrease symptoms in your body so that you're riding up here, you're not even feeling them. So really, you don't even get symptoms until you get to about the 70 or 80% compromise mark. Does that make sense? You might have muscular pain, you might have vision problems, or you might have, think about all the stuff that doesn't cause pain, okay? Diabetes, depression, anxiety, you know? You've got a lot of digestive stuff that doesn't cause pain. Diarrhea and constipation doesn't necessarily cause pain. Multiple sclerosis doesn't cause pain. Alzheimer's disease doesn't cause pain. Parkinson's disease doesn't cause pain. Pain doesn't mean you're healthy. The lack of it doesn't mean you're healthy. And the presence of it doesn't mean you're sick. I could drop a brick on my foot. I'm in pain, but I'm still healthy. Pain has nothing to do with health. Get that out of your head. So American healthcare would say that if you have no symptoms, you are healthy. But think about it. How do you know when you don't have symptoms until you're 70 or 80% compromised? That ligament, that muscle, those neurotransmitters, those hormonal pathways, about 70 or 80% of them have to be compromised before you get those symptoms, before you have the hair falling and the blowing up and the forgetfulness and the brain fog and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind, because when most people come in here, well, think about it. When they hit right here, that's when they go where?
Doctor,
Then they get what?
medicine,
Which leads to what?
More medicine.
side effects.
Why though? Think about why. You're right, but think about why. Why does that lead to more side effects? And we'll cover this here in a little bit, but might as well talk about it now. Why does that lead to more side effects? Just like we said before, every drug has a side effect, right?
It's altering your body's natural ability to create homeostasis and heal
Absolutely.
itself.
It's forcing your body, this is what every drug does, this is what you need to know, it's forcing your body to lie to itself. That's why it's called alchemy. It's forcing your body to tell a lie so that your body doesn't know it's sick. That's what opioids are. That's what lisinopril is. That's what all the statin drugs are. It's forcing your body to tell a lie, which would then lead to downstream more side effects because you're blocking, suppressing, or inhibiting normal function. You're taking God's physiology and you're forcing it to lie to itself, which is going to cause downstream log jams. You're going to have all kinds of side effects. That's why the commercials are so long. It's not because they made bad chemicals, that's just the chemicals. You're blocking things in the body, and then downstream you're going to have intestinal migration and hot dog fingers and bloody eyesight and all kinds of whatever else they say, right? So then, right here, they go to a doctor, then they get, and here's medicine, here's money over time. So it starts out real free here, because you get those free healthcare screenings, and you get the free mammograms, and you get the free blood pressure screenings, and the free cholesterol checks, right? So it's real free at first, and then you get a little symptom, and you get, a little premium, specialist, CAT scan, surgery, heart attack, more surgeries, and then it just goes up and up and up. That's medicine. However, over here, what we do, medicine over time, you start out right here, and over time, you learn how to eat, because what's the problem? What are we missing?
Food,
Why is everybody getting sick with diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and stroke?
eating sugar.
Sugar, yeah. So if we teach you how to fish and we don't just give you a fish sandwich, then what's that going to do for your life? What's that going to do? We start out, it's a little more expensive at the beginning, but over time it's going to be like this. And there might be little bumps in the road, something like that, but it's never going to do this because here we cut it off at the pass. We're rebuilding all of this before you ever have symptoms. I go on vacation for 3 weeks, I come back, everybody's rebuilding their lungs and their heart and their kidneys and their spleen overnight while they sleep. That's what nutrition does. See, that's what supplements do. You watch the stuff on TV and they're telling, oh, fish oil causes cancer and boom, boom, boom. And, oh, everybody needs calcium for osteoporosis and osteopenia. Take Boniva for osteopenia. You know what Boniva causes? Bone cancer. Funny, huh? Isn't that right? So right here, once you get past this, if you don't know what we're talking about, if you have no idea that there are places out there that have a wall of testimonials with thousands of testimonies on the wall, if you don't know what happens when you go here, you are doing this. When most people walk in here, they've already gone through this. So we work on pulling this back, pulling it back, pulling it back, pulling it back, keeping them away from that. Away from those symptoms. But they've already come in, they've already got the hysterectomy, they've already got the carpal tunnel surgeries, both hands, they come out of surgery, they still have pain. They've already got all that. So I wanted to draw that out for you. Remember, health tank. And here's the kicker too. Sometimes you think of it this way. A friend of mine had a dog, took the dog in for, I love this story, took the dog in, the vet did a routine blood panel, and came back and said, your dog's got kidney failure. And Michael, he said it was so interesting. He's not a doctor or anything. He's a close friend. But he said, it's so interesting because my dog had expressed zero change in his behavior. Zero change. Kidney failure. But the dog had zero change in his behavior. How many people do you know that are exhibiting zero change in their behavior but they're sick? It might change some behavioral stuff. I'll ask husbands what they think about their crazy wives. That might be some behavioral stuff. But the fact of the matter is, there's all these symptoms that are happening, and the dog could not communicate to him and tell him anything about behavioral changes or anything like that. So he was getting really, kidney stuff showed up on the blood lab, right? What if, is everybody in this place moving towards health or illness? The answer is yes, right? Because we're on this continuum. I'll draw it down here. The health continuum. Illness. Sorry if you can't see this in the back. Wellness. You are on this continuum somewhere. If you are not moving towards one end, by moving towards one end, you're moving away from the other. Everyone in this room has organs that are aging. Everyone in this room has things that you did last week, last month, last year, 2 years ago that your body might still be having to rebuild from. So you're on this health continuum. Where are you on this health continuum? All right? Everybody wants to be over here, but if you're not actively building that health philosophy to try to focus your attention and focus where you're going, you're just getting pulled this way by all the media, by all the decision makers out there, by all the contradictory opinions and the Dr. Googles and the stuff like that. So I wanted to draw those things out. We're going to be talking about them here. American healthcare is not healthcare, it's sick care. You have to understand, and I will define crisis care, disease care, and wellness care here in a minute. You'll understand what I mean. The basic premise of traditional medicine is intervention in sick care. In other words, if you have a disease process going on, we're going to intervene. We're going to rearrange that organ, or we're going to drug it, or we're going to do something. That is the basis of healthcare. I say this in defense of medical doctors. I say this because so many times people want to come in and throw their medical doctor under the bus. Well, I just paid all these premiums and deductibles and copays, and I just go to my doctor, and he just wants to put me on pills. What else? And I say in their defense, what else would you like him to do? Well, what do you mean? I want him to give me herbs. Well, honey, that's going to a roofer and asking for a plumbing job. You're asking for the wrong, you're going to a car mechanic and asking for a roof to be put on. You're asking the wrong thing. What do you mean by that? By law and by license, they will never. They can't. It's illegal. They can't do it. You cannot throw them under the bus for not catering to your demands. You're barking up the wrong tree. Get off your high horse. Sorry to tell you. That is so shocking to people because they've never heard it like that. But seriously, by law and by license, they're required to adhere to what's called a standard of care. If you come to me And I don't put you on a drug for your high blood pressure. But 2 years later, you go to another doctor down the street, and he finds out you had blood pressure when you came to see me in. I didn't put you on the standard drug treatment that is dictated by the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies. I lose my license. That is called standard of care. So don't be upset with the medical doctors for following the law. It was the law written by the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies who dictate their behavior and dictate the care and the products that you receive from them. So don't let it come as a surprise that they're not giving you herbs and teaching you how to eat. Don't let that be a surprise. When you take sick care and promote it to an entire culture as healthcare, you end up with a sick society like we currently have. What country is the sickest society in known, recorded human civilization on planet Earth? Name the country. Say it louder.
By the USA.
Who else?
America.
America, son. America. Who else? Any other guesses? Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. Yet, who has the most drugs in the world?
USA.
Who has the most vaccines in the world?
Yes.
Who has the most surgeries in the world?
Yes.
Who has the most imaging centers on the planet?
Yeah.
Who has the most doctors?
Yes.
You see the pattern? When I said logic and reason and science and history and statistics, that's what I'm talking about. You can't, those numbers don't lie. Okay? So here's the deal. We spend close to $3 trillion per year in the US on what's called healthcare, yet we have the sickest nation. $3 trillion. And we're getting nowhere fast. We're actually going backwards. We're going here. Kaboom, towards illness, right? Premise. Here's one premise you might want to adopt. Illness and wellness continuum. Everyone is on this, moving toward one or the other. Here's the other thing that I wanted to say. Studies across the board have come back and said, many studies, real legit studies that actually make sense, not studies that were paid for by a pharmaceutical company, but studies that come back and say 25% of your genes, 25% of your life is dictated, of your health is dictated by your genes. The other 75% is what?
Food.
How you live. Why aren't we taught that? Why wasn't I told that in school right before I put $5 in the vending machine? Oh, it's because I wouldn't have put $5 in the vending machine. See that? Here's another premise. You can decide to be healthier in 5 years than you are now. How many of you believe that? Or do you believe the lie that you're just falling apart and you're going to get older? And that's just the way it is. You forget stuff. When you get older, you just get forgetful. I don't even let people talk like that around me. I don't even let that crap come out of their mouths. I've got signs in each room. No negativity allowed. You say this, you're gone. Get out of here. Come back with, you're grounded, young man. Get out of here. So everyone has a view, but can it be validated? In other words, everyone has an opinion, but can it be validated? Different people kind of accept different things as proof. To some people, it's only peer-reviewed journal articles, white papers from JAMA, and to other people, it's a meme on Facebook. What will people accept as proof, right? Well, you have to determine that. We'll discuss that later. 3 general modes of healthcare. I want to discuss this. Crisis care. That's car accidents, heart attacks, bullet wounds, stuff like that. Those are the things. Crisis care is what we do very well here in America. We're talking about emergency rooms. That's what we're doing. Okay, you get a bullet wound, you get a shark fight, you get a car accident, boom, that's what we do. But that's less than 2% of all the time you see reds and blues flying around in the ambulances. That's less than 2%. Just know that statistically. The other thing is disease care. In other words, you've got a pathological process going on in the body. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, whatever. And crisis care is very different than disease care. Disease care, we're talking about dialysis centers, cancer treatment centers, we're talking about all the drugs for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all that stuff. And then the third is epigenetic care, or what some people call wellness care. Okay, epigenetic, that's a big word we won't get into right now. But in other words, with wellness, we activate and deactivate the genes that are expressing disease or not expressing disease based upon 2 things, your food and your environment. In other words, if you're around a bunch of chemicals or a bunch of radiation, it's going to affect your genes in a different way than if you're not. So food and environment, that's a term called epigenetic, which means upon the genetic code, epigenetic. It's been around 20, 30 years. Brand new branch of science that you probably haven't heard of, but it's making waves because it's not that old. You're hardwired. Your DNA is hardwired, and nothing can change. That's we've discovered that's not real. That's not right. Your DNA can change. Okay? So, we won't even have time to get into this here. 2 different types of isms in medicine. Okay, there's vitalism and mechanism. I'll just explain it really quickly. Mechanism means you got this part, you got this part, you got this part. The whole is not as great as the sum of the parts. In other words, you've got a specialist, a specialist, a specialist, liver, heart, kidney, right? You've got these parts. Mechanism is kind of individually explaining and explaining how the organism works by examining and understanding the parts. Vitalism, mechanism, meaning mechanistic, meaning mechanical. Vitalism means vita, from life, from the Latin word for life. Vitalism is more of a, most people would say holistic, looking at the body as a whole. That's all the term holistic means. Holistic just means you look at the body as a whole. WHOLE. So holistic is a term that's kind of thrown around, very much like I said, homeopathic, naturopathic, you use all these terms, but they're very specific definitions, which we'll get to. So like to mechanism, to people into a mechanistic worldview of health, it would be, well, you've got an eye, there's a problem with the eye, so there's a problem with the eye part. Or you got a problem with the stomach, so there's a problem with the stomach part. Could a problem with the stomach part cause a problem with the eye part? You and I all say yes. See, mechanism says, no, you got a problem with the eye part, you got a problem with the eye part. See? If you have a problem with jaundice in your skin, is that a problem with the skin, or is that a problem with the liver?
Liver.
We all know that. So we've got part of our health philosophy that is kind of caught in the old world of mechanism. Whereas we all know vitalism, if you cut a dead person, nothing happens. You cut a live person, something bleeds. So there's only vitalism, there's only life, and life is what heals. Does that make sense? So vitalism, you need to figure out your philosophy. Are you more of a mechanistic, or are you more into vitalism? And vitalism would mean that you can't understand the parts of the body without understanding the full. Can you drug just one symptom? Can you drug one? Can you take a drug that will affect only one organ?
No.
Problem solved, right there. You cannot take a drug that will affect only one organ. Think about it. So the mechanism versus vitalism thing, you have to decide which realm, which camp you're going to, which side of the fence you're going to camp on there. So I like this famous quote, kind of sums up the whole vitalism thing. Think not about the person who has, or the disease the person has, but the person who has the disease. That sums up the whole vitalism thing. I'll just cut right to the chase. And now, just real quick, if you understand this stuff, you're going to understand more than most people on Earth. This is the big thing. This is the information that will educate you more than 95% of the people out there. Okay, you ready? This is a shell shock. I'm just going to run right through this because we're running low on time. There are 3 doctorate degree healthcare professional primary care portal of entry healthcare physicians in the United States. One is called medical doctor, one's called the doctor of osteopathy, and one's called the doctor of chiropractic. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, so just full disclosure, I'm just going to tell you stuff that you can look up anywhere. I've got friends who are in all of these disciplines. We're also going to talk about acupuncturists. We're going to talk about naturopathic doctors. We're going to talk about homeopathy real quick. I'm just going to read through this stuff because we are running way past time. So I just want you to understand this: how the history of medicine, which I could get into for weeks. I could teach weeks on this. The history of medicine, the history of osteopathy, the history of chiropractic, all kind of goes together. And you have to understand where these came from in order to understand how to align your health philosophy with what you want to do. Allopathic physicians, you've heard that term, allopathy. Those are MDs. That's a medical doctor. Now, keep in mind, MD, DO, DC, we already said those are the 3 primary care portal of entry healthcare physicians. In other words, if you want to have a healthcare provider, you should probably decide which one of these docs you're going to go with. Because at some point in time, you're going to have to call them. At some point in time, you're going to have to align with an MD's philosophy, a DO's philosophy, or a chiropractor's philosophy at some point in time. Primary care portal of entry healthcare physicians, there's 3 of them in the United States. Here's MD. Well, obviously that stands for medical doctor. It's popularized by Trapper John MD, it's popularized by MASH, it's popularized by Scrubs, and basically all of the healthcare shows you see, Bones, all this stuff, House, I think, all of these shows you see on TV are all medical doctors, okay? I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying that's the most popular mainstream type of doctor that's out there. This is what focuses on the sick care. They focus on the diagnosis and the treatment of disease pathology. They use drugs and surgery, we just discussed, that's what they're licensed. calls for, drugs and surgery. Don't throw them under the bus and hate them because they just want to give you drugs. That's what their license allows them to do. That's what the law allows them to do. If they wanted to do something else, they could. Insurance won't pay for that, so they don't, many times. But there are MDs out there who do things a little more holistically, or will try not to do as many drugs. Journal of the American Medical Association, they have their own journal. The American Medical Association is made up of MDs and DOs. Okay, so the Journal of the American Medical Association, a while ago, this study came out. They published this, and it was not popular, but it came out years ago, and it said over 106,000 people per year die of properly prescribed drugs. And then Barbara Starr, the Starr Report, came out with a bunch more information about how many people die in America based on pharmaceuticals and medical errors and doctors' mistakes and iatrogenic and nosocomial infections and all this stuff. Pretty much laid it all out there that the only people that die of MRSA and C. diff are in hospitals, and it was a big deal. So of all types of practices, medicine carries the highest risk as reflected in malpractice insurance rates. I think I have the rates in here. Because if you're doing drugs or surgery, your malpractice insurance has to go sky high, which is why you don't see people coming out of medical schools and starting their own practice, because they cannot afford the malpractice insurance rates, the premiums for the malpractice. So they get absorbed into these big communities of doctors or health maintenance organizations or hospitals or something that get group rates. So there are, just to give you a brief estimate, there are 900,000 MDs in the US. There's about 10 or 15 million. These are numbers that could wildly change. This was the best I could find. 10 to 15 million worldwide. It requires a 4-year undergraduate degree, followed by 4 years medical school, followed by specialty training and internships and residencies. Just to give you an idea, there are 141 medical schools in the United States. 141. Keep that in mind. Now, DOs, doctors of osteopathy, kind of came about in the end of the 1800s. Andrew Taylor Still was the first. He was a friend of D.D. Palmer, who we'll talk about here in a minute. Or I shouldn't say friend. He was a colleague or a compadre or they were around at the same time. But Andrew Taylor Still saw a lot of things in the Civil War, and he said, "Man, I don't like this medicine stuff." I think he had a wife and 3 daughters that all died of spinal meningitis, and so he saw the failures of medicine. And he said, "I don't want to do the drugs. I don't want to do the surgery. I want to do," because he realized, he thought, he realized, and he propagated the idea that blood was supreme. Blood had everything. And if there was a problem in the body, then it was a problem with circulation. And therefore, he came up with osteopathic manipulative medicine, which was a way of stretching and pushing and manipulating bones and muscles and tendons and ligaments to influence the blood. So Andrew Taylor Still started A.T. Still University in Missouri, I want to say, and was at first kind of going against medicine after his disillusionment. So we'll get more into him in just a minute. But they practice in all 50 states, and they prescribe drugs and surgery. They're basically indistinguishable now from medical doctors, but back in the day when it was first started, it was meant to be an affront to medicine. They're now, they specialize in similar manners. In Europe, they don't prescribe or perform surgery. I did not know that until just recently. But they do use osteopathic manipulation frequently. If you do go to a DO, the older ones are still trained in the osteopathic manipulative arts. The newer ones are pretty, from my understanding, just drugs and surgery for the most part. They're kind of getting rid of that. There are about 74,000 osteopaths in the U.S. as opposed to the 900,000 MDs in the U.S., so that gives you a little scale on how big and how small. 45,000 in the rest of the world, whereas the rest of the world has about 10 to 15 million MDs. And there are 34 osteopathic schools versus 141 MD schools. Moving on. Chiropractic. I already told you I'm a chiropractor. About 1895, D.D. Palmer codified the first adjustment, and a lot of people are blown away to find out that it was the first actual recorded chiropractic adjustment. I mean, we're talking about bone setting stuff that had gone on since Egypt and Rome and China. But D.D. Palmer kind of codified everything, and he had first adjusted a deaf janitor named Harvey Lillard, and his hearing was restored. It's written up in the newspapers. People can test it still to this day, you know. But here's the deal: in the face of persecution and sure attempts at containment, there had to be something miraculous behind it in order for it to still be maintained. and for it to still evade the clutches of everything that's trying to crush it. So it operates on two premises, and you just have to understand this, because this kind of goes along with my philosophy on what we talked about at the beginning. The body is self-healing and self-regulating, okay? That means your digestion, your breathing, your heart rate, your reproduction, your neurotransmitters, all of that stuff, your hormones. You're not thinking right now at all about the food you ate. You're probably thinking about the food you want to eat. But you're not having to think about your digestion, you're not having to think about your heart rate, your body does all that. So it's self-healing and it's self-regulating, right? Second premise, the nervous system is the master controller of the body, right? Your hormones, your blood pressure, your digestion, your eyesight, your hearing, everything I just mentioned is all controlled by your nervous system, right? So if that's the case, any type of nervous system interference would decrease your body's ability to heal. Yes? Any type of something that interferes with the nervous system. What would interfere with the nervous system? Anybody?
Drugs.
Huh?
Drugs.
Funny. Yeah, absolutely. That's the big one. Right. Drugs cause your nervous system to do what? To what?
Lie to itself.
To lie. Right. Drugs force your nervous system to lie to the rest of your body. In other words, we're going to block those pain receptors with those opioids so you just don't feel the pain. But if I were to give you a pill right now that, free of charge, I don't do this, I don't prescribe, but if I were to give you a pill right now that took away all of your pain for the rest of your life, would you take it?
How long are you gonna live?
Yeah, how long is the rest of my life?
That's a good question. Who says yes? Anybody say yes? If we were just give you a pill and you feel no more pain, who would take it?
Mine.
Huh?
That'd be dangerous for me.
No, I'm sorry. If I left out one part. If it had no side effects, and I just gave you a pill, what would anybody take it?
I would,
You would?
if it take off, I don't have any pain now, but if it took all my pain away, I would.
Wow, so she's preventative pain
Pain of
management.
life.
Okay, so how about, so I give you the pill. You walk out of here, you trip over the curb, you sprain an ankle.
I wouldn't have pain because the pill would take care of that, right?
So then you go home and you're leaning against the stove, you don't know the stove's on. And all of a sudden you smell burning flesh.
Pill
Right.
took care of it,
How you feel about that now?
pill took care of it.
Pill took care of it, now you don't have a hand. How you feel
Right.
about that?
That would not be good.
Right, there, now you're thinking. Right. So pain is not an enemy. Pain is your body's response to show you something's up. So the last thing you want to do is force your body to lie to yourself with no pain. Does that make sense? The last thing you want to do is kill the pain. Well, in pain, I'll just say it in the words of my mentor, one of my mentors, he said, pain is created so that we cry out to our Creator. The reason pain is there. So why do you think they're trying to opioid everybody? They're trying to silence the cry,
That's true.
take away the pain. Oh man, that leveled me. Whew, leveled me. Take away the pain.
Yes,
Crazy.
life.
It forces your body, it forces your own body to lie to itself so you don't feel it. And then you just go through it. That's what leprosy was.
Yeah,
They didn't feel pain, so they'd step on stuff and boom, their foot's gone. They didn't think
Right.
about it. It's a biblical leprosy is what we have right now in this country. Anyway, so those premises, the main tool of chiropractic is an adjustment to correct joint interference. So you need to think of it this way. Anything that interferes with the nervous system function affects the body's ability to heal and regulate. So the question, what things can affect nervous system function? Drugs, like Chris said. I won't get into any of this. But basically, D.D. Palmer and A.T. Still were having a debate one time. Andrew Taylor Still said, well, I see the value in some of the drugs, and I see the value in some of the manipulation, so I want to do both. D.D. Palmer, there was a famous debate. D.D. Palmer said, they'll absorb you, and soon you'll be indistinguishable from them. If you do one drug, you'll do them all. If you give one prescription, you'll give them all. If they give you the rights to do one prescription, they'll give you the rights to do them all. Which is why I stand so vehemently against what's going on right now in chiropractic. There's so many schools that are trying to get chiropractic prescriptive rights so that we can write prescriptions, which is just. There's no shortage of doctors out there writing prescriptions. Why would we want to do that and add to the problem? But you're passing this on through generations, and it's getting horrible. We don't have time really to get into. I'm sorry, this is just a lot of stuff. We don't have time to get into. Does anybody want to know much about homeopathy? We do homeopathy here, so I should probably
We do a whole
discuss
class
it.
on that
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, we could do a whole class on homeopathy, but homeopathy is basically developed by Samuel Hahnemann, who was a German physician in the late 1800s. It's basically the dilutions of matter down to the point where you don't have the chemical substituents of the matter in the liquid itself anymore. It's actually stimulating a vibrational resonance response in the body. You're giving the body the information to heal without giving it the chemicals to heal. Basically, it's just information medicine. You hear a lot of talk these days about energy medicine. That's what we do here. Because basically, when you do a CAT scan or a blood lab, what are you looking at?
Energy.
Energy. When you do chiropractic adjustment or when we do nutrition response testing, what are we doing?
Energy.
Yeah, totally. So homeopathic stuff is information medicine. It's a reminder to assist the body in healing. So you're sending out a reminder of the body to function, okay? I'll cover this too. Naturopathic doctor, all that basically means is, I'll just read you the definition right off the line. They identify and remove obstacles to healing and recovery to stimulate the body's inherent self-healing process by incorporating clinical nutrition, herbal medicine, a bunch of other stuff. Just to give you an idea, there are about 2,000 naturopaths in the US and Canada. There are only 17 states that license them. As opposed to 900,000 medical doctors in the United States, there's 65,000 chiropractors. And there's about 20 schools as opposed to 140 schools of medical schools. Acupuncturist, that's a form of Chinese medicine. Qi, life energy. We basically do acupuncture here, but we use what's called a laser to do it. Once I met enough PhD level acupuncturists who threw out their needles the day that they found out what a cold laser did, I said, okay, I'll have an acupuncturist in my office, but it'll be a laser. And then so not to debase acupuncture at all, but just something that I use here to stimulate the energy pathways of the body. It's called a cold laser, and it's just laser light. It's wavelength that's the same size as your DNA. So the 4 pillars of our process in these folders that I gave you before talk about chiropractic, laser, detox, nutrition. Chiropractic adjusts the big structures of the body. Laser focuses on the DNA, so small structures. And then the 3rd pillar is nutrition gets the good things into your body, and the 4th pillar is detox gets the bad things out. So you can't help but get better. It's a win-win-win-win-win, okay? And we won't get into the modes of evidence that exist in the world of health. Once again, you have to know what you believe, why you believe it, and then figure out what you're going to do with the information. Modes of health, or modes of evidence, there's a lot of deductive logic, there's inductive logic, there's case studies. I won't get into all this stuff, but basically, inductive research is what we're talking about, where they come up with a new drug, they give it to people, they see 70% of them responded to it, 50% of them didn't, 30% of them had bad responses, so we got the 70% response. We induce that we're going to be able to put this drug on the market if it doesn't kill too many people. Right? If it doesn't, that's how it works. I'm just telling you how it works. Many medical interventions, however, have no randomized controlled clinical trials, such as, well, like surgery. You can't do a randomized clinical controlled trial, people on surgery, we just put the fake hip in, and they do okay or they don't. It would be unethical, what I'm saying, is to do surgery on somebody just to see if the surgery worked. I wouldn't want to be in that randomized clinical control trial, right? But the other things, the randomized clinical control trials, there's a lot of things out there in medicine that we're just taught, well, it's safe and it's effective, but it's not. For instance, prescribing drugs off-label. In other words, here's a non-smoking drug that was done, all the research on it was for non-smoking. Well, they're prescribing it as a psychoactive drug. Or here's a psychotropic, here's an ADD, ADHD drug that we discovered it suppresses your appetite and therefore you lose weight. So now we market it and we change the color of it. We call it something different. We remarket it as a weight loss drug. There's no randomized clinical control trial. They didn't run the research. They didn't do the experiments. So you just have to understand that's inherent within that realm. Another example would be like drugs given to children that they did experiments on just adults, but now they're giving the drugs to kids. That's another big thing. Now, the only thing I really need to cover, the rest of this is just kind of outcome assessments, okay? Some people want proof from deductive logic. In other words, like, can we deduce that will make sense? If you've got, if we know about anatomy and physiology and the blood carries oxygen and we see that your arteries around your heart are decreased in diameter, we can assume that, hey, there might be less oxygen going to your heart and therefore you might have a heart attack. That's deduction. Induction is just randomized clinical control trials, and that's like inducing. That's going from broad concept down to spreading it out to the masses, okay? Case studies, I'll just read you. Case study, this is what happens to someone, and you'll hear this on the news, and they'll say it's research, but it'll be a case study that happened to one person. Here's what I mean. It's what happens to a patient during treatment by a particular doctor. So all disciplines have these, whether you're an MD, DO, homeopath, acupuncturist, whatever. But what we have out front in that referral folder system out there, the lobby, that's case studies. Okay? These testimonials that I just read for you, that would be a case study. Like you would read, if you picked up a medical journal, case study, 42-year-old male, post motor vehicle accident, recovers with stem cell delivery to his brain while in coma. And they would have a case study of what happened during that study. Now, it happened to that one person. Is it scientific? Yeah, because it's valid, and it happened to that one person. But is it something we can base everything else off of? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So just understand that all disciplines have those case studies, but you just have to look at them. We call them testimonials. It's real world, it's boots on the ground, scenarios with real people, and that's where these are going to come into. If Hannah, hello. Keep going, Hannah. I'm going to hand out these testimonial packs real quick, and I'll show you. These are testimonials. These would be referred to as kind of like case studies, right? Last thing. Some people need to understand the risk too of what's inherent. Can you just hand out the testimonial packs?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a great idea the other day. Thank you, buddy. We started using all the testimonials. It took somebody about 3 or 4 months to put all of these together, and put them by category and figured out how we were going to organize them and everything. And I thought, why don't we just start handing these out so that people can understand? If you throw them in the trash, I don't care. If you give them to somebody at work, fine. If you give them to your friends and family and coworkers, fine. But these are all of the non-condition specific. In other words, if you go out there and you can see all of them are by allergy, heart disease, cholesterol, epilepsy, whatever conditions people have. They're all by condition, certain specific conditions. But if you look at these, and they should all still be in the same order, there's general testimonials, there's chiropractic care testimonials, there's laser therapy care testimonials there, ionic foot spa and infrared sauna testimonials, nutrition services, just what people say about some of the nutrition, standard process supplements, they may be in different orders, natural versus medical, there's even a medication reduction one in there, and just for the caveats, just for Facebook, I don't take people off pills. It's not my license, it's not my law. I did not go to school to study pills and pharmacology, although I know quite a bit about it. It is not my law, not in my scope of practice to take you off your blood pressure medicine, so I don't do it. People come to me and try to get me to do it, but I don't do it, because they'll get rid of my license. So I don't do that. It's up to you to take yourself off that crap, or you go to your doctor and get him to take you off that crap. I won't do it, I can't. But we can get you healthy enough to where you don't need that crap. How's that sound? So, knowing the difference between healthcare and sick care. The truth about pain. Understanding what the truth is about this diagram right here. Understanding the truth about pain. What have we all learned? We're reviewing. Knowing the difference between healthcare and sick care. Healthcare is healthcare. Sick care is disease management. That's what we talked about. It's the truth about pain. It's the role of the nervous system. Just reviewing some of this stuff. The living body, self-healing, self-regulating. Nervous system's the master of it all. The role of stress. Some of you who are here as patients, you understand when I draw that little triangle and I talk about, on the boards every once in a while, I talk about structural, chemical, and emotional. Any one of those in any ratio can get you really, really sick. Structural, car accident, chemical, nutrition, emotional. You go through some stress, you can get really messed up, right? So if you understand this, structural, chemical, and emotional, there's nothing you can't fix. But if you're just throwing drugs, which one are you focused on? If you're just doing surgery, which one are you focused on? If you're a chiropractor who only pushes bones, which one are you doing? Now, some chiropractors do nutrition, the chemical, biochemical stuff, toxins, understanding all that, but what if you do this too? That means you're a triple threat. And we do all three of those puppies. So the biggest thing that you have to do, you have to take responsibility for your health. That is what I'm saying. You cannot put it in charge of the federal government. You cannot put it in charge of a third-party insurance carrier. You cannot put your health, let someone else take care of your health, because guess what? It's a bottom line of the shareholders rather than the lifeline of the policyholder that is interesting to people, okay? So we're in this situation because people are not taking responsibility for their health. And I guess if you are available, if you want to stick around, we'll finish up. We've already gone a little bit over. What do we do here that's different? We do nutrition, chiropractic, ionic detox. We do education, nutrition, coaching, showing you why we get all of these testimonials. How does it work? We use nutrition response testing. It's able to dial right into whatever it is that's going on in your body and figure out exactly what you need. Specific nutrition, we use plants and animals, everything here, all the ancient medicine stuff that this whole class was about, get this. My hands, there's 7 tools we use, nice round biblical number. 7 tools, right? My hands, they're the oldest form of feeling on planet Earth, it's the hands of another person, right? Here goes, the other 6. My hands, plants, animals, water, heat, light, electricity. Find something in there that could possibly hurt you. And find something in there that can't possibly heal you. Everything we're using here is ancient medicine that's been around for thousands of years. Antibiotics, bypasses, all these things been around 50, 60, 80, 100 years. Well, if it's new, it's not true. If it's true, it's not new. You get it? Does that make sense? So, if you would like to, let's hand out surveys too. Before we, so that's it. We'll answer some questions while Hannah's handing out the survey. Any questions on anything that we covered? And if you'd like to get a tour, if you've never been here before, you want to hang out, get a tour, understand what nutrition response testing is, we'll be able to do a quick evaluation and figure out if you're even eligible to be a case here, to be a patient here. And while Hannah's handing this out, think of questions. Well, we're going to hand out some free stuff here in a minute. Questions, comments, concerns? Josie, you got a question? Why's your hand up?
Anybody need a pen in this room?
Yes, and please, fill these out, it'll help. And down at the bottom, if you wouldn't mind, down at the bottom somewhere, just put keywords, if you wouldn't mind. And just write down what you would Google if you were looking for a place like us, a place like here.
Anybody need a pen in this room?
Or just write it over on the right side there. Just put keywords, put a circle around it. And just write down, what would you Google? Would you Google natural doctor? Would you Google chiropractor, Cleveland, Tennessee? What would you Google if you were looking for this? And please answer these honestly. If you learned something, great. If you thought you didn't like my hair, great. Write it down. If you don't like the tone of my voice, great. Write it down. But give us some feedback too. Other classes you'd like to hear? We're going to be doing homeopathy. We'll be doing a lot of classes in the future about essential oils and things like that. Write down anything else, any feedback that would be good. Comments, complaints, feedback? Yes?
Okay, you need to say hi to some people via
Uh-oh.
Facebook. We've got Jamie Johnson
Jamie Johnson.
and Zachary Ishmael
Oh, Zachary. Yes.
and a couple more. Oh, and Marlo family,
Oh, yeah.
Chad,
Okay.
Rachel,
Oh, yeah. Chad's got a story.
and Kayla.
Okay. Oh, Michaela?
Kayla.
Oh, Kayla. Oh, Kayla, yeah. Chad. Chad.
And then, there's that's about it.
Okay, cool. Great. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anything on Facebook? Any questions?
Yeah, but not something you want to answer right now.
Is it longer
Longer
stuff? Okay. Well, yeah, so we can sign off of Facebook, I suppose. And then we can answer some real questions once we're done with
Okay.
Facebook. Hey, but in, 2 weeks, Blueprint for Healing. We will be here. We will have lights, camera, sound. We will be wired for sound, heavy duty. Andrew will be here. So thank you, Facebook. Like this, share this. Oh, here's one last thought. Everybody in this room, everybody out there knows somebody who needs to be here. Actually, I'll take it a step further. Everybody in this room knows 50 people who need to be here. Am I lying? Everybody has aunts, uncles, parents, cousins, kids. Everybody you know needs to know what we're doing here. I don't care if they don't become patients. Bring them to these classes. Get them in here. Free information. They're not going to hear this on CNN. They're not going to see it in the USA Today. And we get into some spicy topics. This was more of an informational thing because I thought, I ran into all these holistic, homeopathic, naturopathic, discrepancies in people's understanding, and I thought, people need to know this, and it fits right into this ancient medicine thing. But really looking at what's going on, people need to understand not just their health philosophy, but they need to understand all these other things that are going on in the world. They need to understand the vaccines. They need to understand cancer. They need to understand anti-aging. That's a huge one. They need to understand what's going on in the food, the air, and the water. They need to understand how to make their own shakes and what really nutrition is all about. So think of someone you know and tell them about what's going on here. Just like Teresa's done. Teresa's not even a patient here. And you've steered how many people?
3 at least.
Yeah.
Do I have 3 in there?
I don't know. I'll let you dig through there. But yeah, she's not even a patient yet. Yet.
Yeah.
But she's already talking. And Carolyn, are you glad she talked?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm thankful.
Are you? Good. Any testimonies? Something with you guys.
Testimonies of benefits
Yeah.
from being here?
Yeah.
I stopped having headaches after coming here.
Right on.
0 headaches until I deviate from what I'm supposed to be eating, and then I'll have a headache.
That's just like that testimony you read earlier about the
Oh yeah.
Deborah when she
Yeah.
stopped taking the supplements. She went on vacation, stopped taking the supplements, and didn't eat good, and all of her symptoms started coming back.
Yeah, and eventually you get to a point where your supplements will change up over time, but really it's all dependent. Some of them will go away. It's all dependent on your diet. Really, the supplements are a way to speed that up because they're concentrated whole food plants and animals, and it's not like we're getting you out of dependence of the supplements, which some people may hear that, but it's understanding that those neurotransmitters, those pathways, those hormones are all dependent upon your food and your diet, and these supplements are really concentrated. So yeah, question.
Just speak up a little bit. So
Oh yeah. Speak up. So yeah, we don't have a microphone floating around right now. So
Okay, no, I was just curious, referring back to the person you were mentioning then, how long had they been on the program when they took that vacation and
more than
stopped?
6 months.
More than 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not over a year.
no,
Okay.
no, and she'd been here about probably 6 months at that point, 5 or 6 months, and she went off the rails for like what 5 weeks.
No. It was. There was like this 3-week crazy period for her, and there was about a week of her not taking the supplements, and it was just in that time. It's like the
She
thing that was repairing her
recently
body.
went on vacation and didn't come in for 5 weeks.
Well, yeah, but what I was talking about the craziness of she didn't
She
come in
traveled.
here, but
Yeah.
when she actually didn't have the supplements.
Yeah. So where was I going with that?
So it's just showing that your body has to be rebuilding those things, and that's where the pain comes in. It's why your body has the pain in the first place. It's trying to say there's something lacking here.
Yeah.
And
I
need help.
asked because he mentioned, your body's not supposed to be dependent on the supplements. So it's her body was still building up.
Well,
I
it's
guess.
not so much dependent on supplements, it's dependent upon the nutrients that are in the supplements. It is dependent upon those.
Yeah,
If you get them in your diet,
If you
great.
fix your
Most
diet.
people don't.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
And for all intents and purposes, it's easier, more practical, and sometimes more cost effective now to get them in the supplements rather than going to the butcher and getting the organ meats and the glandulars that people just aren't going to eat anymore.
A lot of times they're just higher concentrates in these supplements as well, and they're such high quality that you can't really. It's really in the environment we live in America here, especially. It's very hard to replace that.
Yeah, but we're all changing that. Just like I was having a talk, she was saying it's hard to find good food, but I was just having a talk with somebody today, and she's very on board. She's been doing natural health type stuff for 25 years. She discovered us. She's on board. She's on fire, and she was saying, well, but it's so hard to talk to people. There aren't many people that do what I'm doing or even know what you're doing. And I said, well, but everything's changing. How do I know? Panera, no chemicals. Everything's changing. How do I know? Everybody's doing essential oils. Why? Toxic chemicals. Everybody's learning. Everything's changing. How do I know? It just goes on and on. Whole Foods, Earth Fare, Fresh Market. People are ordering stuff online to get away from the big box retailers and stuff. Like, everything's changing. And you are that change. We're all making that change.
Even Kraft mac and cheese started. I mean, I don't
Right.
recommend eating Kraft mac and cheese at all, but even they
Right.
started
Try it.
changing and started taking certain chemicals out.
Right. Yeah.
and certain artificial flavors out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't
yeah.
recommend eating it. Just
Yeah.
saying, but
McDonald's has
everybody's.
been feeling the crunch. There's fast food places that have been feeling the crunch.
Applebee's is out here.
Mhm.
Huh?
Applebee's is going bankrupt.
Are they really? I never heard that.
Applebee's is going bankrupt.
Yeah, I think they're going low.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, they're in the red.
I didn't hear that. Wow, that's news to me. That's crazy. Well, we'll sign off here and then we'll give away free stuff.
Yeah.
Keep filling out those surveys. Give me feedback. Give me feedback. So thank you. Everybody knows somebody that needs to be here. Facebook, you know somebody that needs to be here. You know you do. Don't lie to me. Everybody give Facebook a big old sound off. Thank you guys. Thank you. Dr. Brett Spellman, Divine Design, Natural Health. See you in 2 weeks.